we have Chris Hilescove, the Zoning Enforcement Officer, and Eric Lundy, the Deputy Director of Neighborhood Services. Our meeting moderator to assist with all of our visual and audio here and recording is Tyler Hall, right down here in front. I'll cover the meeting's procedure here. This may be the shortest meeting in the board's history, and I think my intro here is probably longer than the hearing itself. But for the record, I've got to give this. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-legal board. This hearing will be conducted within the procedures and format as authorized by Iowa law and this city's ordinances. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting is being recorded by both audio and video for a legal record of these proceedings. The board members have each received a copy of the agenda and the staff recommendations. The board is required to base its decision on each item upon the criteria established by law for the type of relief sought by the applicant. The law applicable to each case has been identified in the written staff report. If the facts, as determined by this board, demonstrates that the criteria established by law for granting the relief has been satisfied, then the board must grant the relief. Otherwise, the board must deny the requested relief. Each item will be announced in the order that it appears on the agenda. Items that are listed on the consent portion of the agenda, which is our first portion of the agenda, are not planned to be individually discussed. Rather, they will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless the appellant does not agree to the conditions recommended by staff, or if there's an individual in the audience or a member of this board that requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda so that a full discussion on the matter can occur. If we do have any items on the regular portion of the agenda, after that item is announced, staff would then first give a brief overview of the appeal and present any written comments that have been received. The applicant or their representative will then be allowed up to 10 minutes to present their appeal. We'll then move to the public comment portion of the hearing. If anyone wants to speak in support of, in opposition to, or even in neutrality of that appeal, they'll be allowed up to 5 minutes each for their comments. Once all citizens have spoken, the board will then ask any additional questions of staff, and the applicant will then be given 3 more minutes for a rebuttal or other closing comments. All speakers can only speak from the podium here at the front center of the room by the monitor and the microphone there. We ask that you first give both your name and address of business or residence as appropriate. In the event, you may need to be contacted for a legal notice related to the outcome of this appeal. Please remain courteous and focus your comments only upon those facts that demonstrate whether or not the criteria established by law have been satisfied. Let's see. The board chair will then close any further public comments on the agenda item. We'll immediately deliberate the request and make a decision today. Please note it always takes 4 affirmative votes for any zoning appeal to gain approval. If your appeal is approved, we ask that you wait at least 1 week from today. If you'd need to contact the city's Permit and Development Center to obtain any necessary building or sign permits. This will allow the decision of the board to be documented in the form of a decision and order for the record. That will then be provided to you and city staff. Any appeal that is approved by the board must be implemented, constructed, or otherwise utilized within 2 years of the date of the decision by this board, or such approval shall expire. Finally, the decisions of this board can only be appealed in the Iowa District Court. If you believe you've been harmed by an error made by this board, your only remedy is to seek relief through the court within 30 days of the filing of the board's decision and order. If you believe the zoning regulations applied by this board are wrong, you may petition the city council to change those regulations for future considerations. And finally, all material written or otherwise used today as part of any presentation is part of the permanent record. So if you have anything that you would end up presenting that staff don't have a copy of, you'll need to leave an appropriate copy. And copies of anything used in the hearing can be provided to you if needed. I think that takes care of the official requirements here. So let's go ahead and get to our agenda. This could be our shortest agenda in the history of this board. I believe we just have 1 item on the agenda today, and that item is on our consent agenda, meaning that as long as the appellant is agreeable to the conditions that staff have requested here, staff is recommending granting the requested appeal, which is in this case a conditional use related to some other uses of sales of alcohol, liquor, wine, and or beer on premises. And that's related to a fabrication and production request related to alcohol. So we don't have to have a discussion on this item, but is there anybody in the audience that would object to the board granting permission for this conditional use as presented? Anybody that would object to that, just raise your right hand. Going once, going twice. Okay, if there's no objections, anybody on the board have any concerns or questions? If there would be none, I guess this is on consent, so would there be a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, motion by Marlis, second by Rhonda. All those in favor of approving the items on the consent agenda, raise your right hand, say aye. All right, that motion carries 7-0. Everybody's excited about this. So as long as you follow what staff has for all the permitting and conditions that go with it, we wish you well, and we'll be down to have a drink sometime. Okay, do we have any other business? Minutes? Meeting minutes from last month. If you were here last month and have reviewed the minutes, you bet. Have a good afternoon. If you've reviewed the minutes, would there be a motion for any corrections or to grant approval? Okay. All right, motion by Rhonda, second by Marlis. All those in favor who were here last month, raise your right hand, say aye. So that carries 6-0. All members except for Justin. Okay, well, that concludes our hearing for this afternoon. And it wasn't 20 minutes long. We had to wait how many minutes? 10? Okay.